Welcome back to 22 Savage TV. This is going to be another Waiver Wednesday video. And actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to double up on this one because I missed last week due to some technical difficulties. So I'm going to actually give you even more options this time around. This is for week 4 and beyond, obviously. If I give you any guys to add to your team, I'm obviously projecting them to do big things, not only for the upcoming week, but into the future. So anyway, let's get into it. I'm going to start by going to my watch list. Alright, so the first person I want to talk about here is actually going to be Kirk Cousins. So far, Cousins has really excelled. As you can see here, he's ranked 4 of all quarterbacks so far in fantasy. I mean, it's only been 3 weeks. You know, obviously, I anticipate at least some inconsistencies to come up in the future, but so far, man, Kirk has been pretty solid, man. And you know, obviously, fantasy football is about getting the most points. He's averaging 24 points per game. Like I said, all around solid addition. So I would probably rock out with Kirk Cousins. Let's keep it moving here. Let's go ahead and talk about Daniel Jones as well. As you can see, he's ranked 10. He's in the top 10. You know, the difference with Daniel Jones as opposed to Kirk Cousins, Daniel Jones actually offers a lot with his legs. You know, he gets a lot of rushing opportunities. And he rarely disappoints. And so, obviously, if you know fantasy football, you know that, you know, rushing yardage and rushing touchdowns generally count for more. Like a rushing touchdown is 6 points versus a passing touchdown, which is only 4 points. So, like his stat line may look a little like weird at first. Like, you know, he may only have 200 yards passing, but then you'll see, you know, 50, 80 yards rushing sometimes, and so that could really be a big boost. You always want quarterbacks who offer that rushing upside. So, you know, and he surprisingly, he's not turning it over as much, you know, as he was in years past. So I think that's also what's helping, you know, keep his average up. You know, he's not losing points for those interceptions and fumbles, you know, like he was in years past. So I would roll the dice. I mean, if you're in a tricky situation at quarterback, you know, and it all depends on matchups, obviously, with Daniel Jones. I mean, you wouldn't want to roll him out there against, like, Tampa Bay or, you know, any of the more elite teams in the league, especially some of the elite defenses. You know, he'll be very matchup dependent, but so far, man, he's been pretty solid. So Daniel Jones. And I also want to talk about his teammate Darius Slate. Now I meant to mention him again in the video that I missed due to the technical issues. But Slayton, you know, since that time, he has injured his hamstring. I'm seeing here, but I just think this is an all-around solid player. Like, once he gets back to full health, once the Giants, you know, really start to find and hit their stride, you know, probably mid-season or what have you, Slayton's going to be a big part of the offense. He's already been a big part of the offense. As you can tell, he's like their big play guy. And so, you know, if you're having problems at receiver, you know, he's a guy, you know, you could stash. You could certainly do much worse. He's a guy you can stash. Like I said, I think once mid-season starts to roll around, the Giants, you know, start to kind of find their footing, you know, in terms of their offense. He's going to be a guy. He's going to be a player. Slayton, I would add him. There's another guy I'm very interested in, Hunter Renfrow. I think that, he's like, he would be the equivalent to like the Cole Beasley sort of player. Like, he has a very specific role. He's generally the slot guy. The chain mover. He's gonna pick up big first downs. But the thing is, when you have that type of rapport with your quarterback, he's gonna trust you. He's gonna trust you a lot more in the red zone. Even though Hunter Renfrow, he's like a smaller guy. He's a gamer, man. Obviously we remember him from Clemson, when he caught the game-winning pass against Alabama from Desean Jackson. But he's always been underrated and underestimated, but the guy is just a gamer. Obviously Oakland's offense is very high-powered, and he's going to get some of that. I know they obviously have Waller, they have, Edwards and Ruggs, but, even as, if you want to say he's the fourth option, given the guys that I just named, like, again, their offense is so high-powered. I think Derek Carr is like close to 400 passing yards a game, so he's going to get some of that. So again, if you're in a situation, a receiver, maybe some guys are banged up, I would suggest Hunter Renfrow as well. So moving right along, a guy I didn't get to talk about as well, Rondelle Moore. I like him as well because the Cardinals like him. Obviously, the Cardinals' offense is very high-powered. They have a solid, legit, 3, maybe 4 deep at receiver. And so, much like Hunter Renfrow, he's probably one of the lower options. You have D-Hop, AJ Green, and then Christian Kirk, I would say, is probably the number 3, maybe number 2. And so that would kind of push, Moore down. He didn't have a great game last week, obviously. But I think, basically he's going to be very matchup specific, game flow specific, depends on how the game is going. But they really like him out in Arizona. He's explosive. One of the smaller guys, but he's explosive. So I think, especially right now, like I have DeAndre Hopkins and he's like pretty banged up right now. So definitely want to look to add Rondelle Moore if you can. Alrighty. And let's keep it moving here. I also want to talk about Jonnu Smith. I know it's been sort of a slow start for the New England offense. Obviously they're starting a rookie quarterback, Mac Jones, isn't really the most prolific passer. He's more of a game manager. And so you're going to have, obviously weeks where their passing offense is just looking really mediocre. But I think basically of all the tight ends, he's the most talented on their roster. And I think he's just a very talented tight end, period. I think later on in the season, you're going to see him sort of emerge. So he'd be a good guy to sort of stash out, I think. Also, keep rolling here, Dalton Schultz. While we're on the subject of tight ends, he's actually ranked number 5 so far. Obviously, that's going to be a bit skewed. He had a really big game just this past week against the Eagles. Two touchdowns, but obviously I think he's emerged as the number 1 tight end in Dallas. A lot of people remember Blake Jarwin, But, I think after the ACL injury last year, he's probably not as explosive. And so Dalton Schultz has really seized on that opportunity. I really like what he brings to the table. He's definitely a guy you want to add, moving forward. That Dallas passing attack, Dak Prescott is just, looks like he's reaching sort of that apex, that pinnacle of, he's at the peak of his powers. Let's just put it that way. So, any really passing options in the Dallas offense, are at least worth a look. But I think right now, it basically goes, Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, and Dalton Schultz. As far as receiving options, those are pretty much their receiving options until Gallup comes back. So definitely look for Schultz to have a few big games here coming up. Also, someone else I wanted to mention, I noticed he was, here available in my league, so maybe he's available in some of you guys' leagues as well. Desean Jackson, obviously, had a really big game, in that Rams attack. Now, I'm mentioning him because, obviously, he has that big play, big deep threat potential, and we see what the Rams offense is looking like. So I want to mention him, but then again, me personally, I wouldn't roll the dice on Desean simply because, he's a lot older and he tends to only ball out against teams like that he used to play against. And so once that's up, he's pretty much, done for. So I don't know. Maybe you should add him, maybe you shouldn't. Me personally, I don't think I would. So that's just me. So anyway, that's gonna do it for this video. Thank you so much for checking us out. Please like, share, and subscribe. I'll check y'all on the next one.